if you can literally visualize yourself sinking into some of these emotions, whether it's anger, grief, shame, that will allow it to dissolve.
And so that has been such a huge realization for us to come to over the past handful of months that has led to so much more happiness, bliss, peace, just being on the other side of that.
We know there are people out there who will go their entire lives never looking at this stuff. And you always look at it.
That really feels like true freedom. I feel like nothing owns you anymore. There's no way you have to live. So you just get to live however feels right to you in any moment. So this shower experiment was pretty awesome.
You swamp-assed your way to enlightenment, baby.
That is crazy.
What a sentence.
That is wild. If you believe in something 100%, it's destined to take place. If you believe in something 80%, it'll work to the 80% degree.
Welcome back to Listen Before Love. We are back again. How's my baby doing today?
Too blessed to be stressed. I'm excited for this one. It's going to be a good one.
That's what I like to hear. So today we've got a fantastic topic for you based on real life events of me and Mr. Cameron Hogan over here. It's how can you be a vessel through which your partner can learn about themselves, about their patterns, about their behavior, and grow.
Yeah.
And man, we've had multiple examples of this, how to be a springboard of growth for your partner in our relationship. But there was one in particular that happened over the last couple of weeks. And every time I've told this story on the walks, people will literally stop everything. And if I try to even like float away or talk to someone else, be like, no, you got to finish this story. This is the best story I've ever heard. So welcome to the No Shower Experiment featuring Cameron Hogan and Elle Beecher.
And you'll see how it ties into the grander picture of communicating upon each other to catapult each other into the highest version of ourselves. But it doesn't sound like that when you say the shower experiment.
The no shower
experiment. But I really feel you are by far the greatest storyteller I know.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm pretty good myself, but you are incredible. And so I want you to tell it, and I'll chime in when necessary.
I love it. Okay. Let's grab our popcorn, ladies and gentlemen, put both our arms and feet and legs into the vehicle, and strap in for the story of the no shower experiment. All right. So picture this. Cameron and I are laying in our new bed that we just purchased from Costco. And we're cuddling in a beautiful morning. And something just tells me to turn to Cam and say, hey, baby, how would you feel if you didn't shower for 5 days in a row? And immediately his reaction is, oh, I could never do that. And then he turns to me and says, now I've got to do that. And what happened right in that moment is that anytime Cam and I discover an area of unfreedom, so what unfreedom means is basically something that is holding us back, something that makes us uncomfortable, something that allows us to say something like, I could never do that, or I'm not that kind of person, any kind of limiting belief. We go and charge right on into it and see if we can make it dissolve through an experiment. So right in that moment, when Cam said, now I've got to do it, he accepted my challenge to not shower for 5 days. Now, where'd this come from? Okay. Cam and I, ever since we've been together, I have noticed, because I watch him very closely and I love him so much and he's my favorite person in the world, I really pay attention to this man. I really notice what goes on in his day-to-day life. And one thing I noticed is that he would shower 3, sometimes 4 times in a day. And I didn't bring it up until now because the spirit moved me. I felt compelled to bring it up in this very moment. But when someone showers that many times in a day, and just to bring it to life, when he wakes up, usually in the afternoon after a workout, if we go for a walk, he usually takes one right after that, and then right before bed. Okay, so that's on the days where there are 4 showers in a day. When somebody is doing something that many times, there's probably something underneath that behavior that is coming from a very deep-rooted place, usually childhood, that makes them feel like if they do not take the shower, their life is going to fall apart. And I'll let Cam explain what exactly was the root of this, baby.
Most definitely. So just to speak on the terms that other people may see themselves in, if there's any imbalance in our lives, even if it's for, let's say, a positive connotation like showering or being clean, I think the same goes to having a clean environment, a clean room. I remember I used to stress if there's one pair of dirty socks on the ground. It's as if I couldn't go to bed. I couldn't even walk into the other room without dealing with that first. And so I've noticed that there's a handful of thought patterns I have when something is out of place. If it feels dirty, if it feels just not uptight and right. And for a while, I just didn't really look at it. I thought it's a great attribute to be a clean, healthy person, to always have a nice house and clean house, whatever that may be. But I started to realize like that was coming from a place of fear. And so growing up, again, this is no fault on my parents. It's just how they were. I think they were both, especially my mother, very, very clean. The house felt always as if it was spotless. I think my mom took multiple showers a day. Dad took multiple showers a day. I don't know if the shower thing was really that big for them as it was for me, but I know it was big for me. And just, basketball practice or whatever it was, I'd always be outside working out, doing something. And I lived in Las Vegas, so it was always 110 out. So you're sweating buckets every single day. And so for my parents' sanity, they're just like, take a shower. And I think I, just like many other things we do as a child, we kind of take it the wrong way. And I felt as if I wasn't clean enough for them. I didn't have everything situated enough for their liking, or at least I didn't meet the standard that I saw my mom have for the house or cleaning in general. And so I adopted habits that would allow for me to have that same standard of, I would say, extreme cleanliness. And that just manifested over the years in multiple showers a day. Like I said, anxiety around a dirty sock on the ground, wherever that may be. And so that's where it started. And you were really the first person to point it out, to make it conscious for me to understand that it seemed a little imbalanced. That seemed a little excessive. And let's look into why that's in place and what we need to do to free ourselves from that. And so I'll let you handle it from there.
Yeah, I think that the major thing I noticed is that he would shower even when it didn't make logical sense. And this is when you know that a behavior is motivated by a very, very deep subconscious program that you probably picked up in childhood, which is exactly what he just said. I remember you telling me that when we were going through this experiment, you had these memories of getting in the car after basketball practice and your mom or dad saying, "Oh, you smell so bad."
Yeah, I cracked down the window.
Yeah, and they would almost make a show, or it felt to you that they were making a big deal about you being dirty, you being stinky, and then you took on this identity of I smell.
Yeah.
And then you were terrified to smell. So it's oh, I've got to nip my smelling in the bud, right? And these things are developed in very small interactions like that. I have certain programs that happen to me that I do to this day that all happen because of one small comment someone made in middle school, right? So it doesn't take much for something like this to develop. But when I started to notice that Cam would shower when he was already clean in my eyes, he had done nothing but walk around the house a little bit and then was like, all right, it's time for bed. Time for my shower. And he wouldn't go to bed without the shower. That's the big thing I noticed, as I would just roll into bed and be like, "Baby, you coming?" He's like, "No, I got to take my shower." I'm like, So just to give you little clues, when you notice that someone is doing something, that your partner, your lover, the person in your life is doing something that doesn't really make logical sense, this may be a sign that it's coming from a deep, deep subconscious program. So when I brought this to Cam, basically in a playful way, as a little challenge, say, what would happen if you didn't shower for 5 days in a row? That opened up the no shower experiment. So here's how it went. On day one, and Cam's going to add color to this, but I'll give you from my perspective. He's feeling confident for the first couple of hours. Oh, I got this. Then when the nighttime rolls around, he starts getting a little agitated and a little bit out of sorts. I notice he's pacing around our living room and he doesn't want to go into our bed because he thinks he's dirty. This is what I at least perceived it to be. And I don't even think you were conscious of it, but you didn't know what to do with yourself. It felt like you were cleaning other things. You were cleaning the kitchen and like putting little blankets in their place. Like you were almost focusing on the external environment because you couldn't take your own shower. And then finally, you got into the bed and you couldn't go to sleep. And I remember when you got into bed, you were like, almost like you were touching a floor of lava. You're like, ugh. And it just felt very painful for you to even get in bed without taking that shower. So from my perspective, it got pretty uncomfortable from almost the beginning of you not taking the shower. But how do you see it, baby? What were you feeling the night of day one?
Yeah, I'd say 12 hours in, I was already feeling it. I think a routine of a sauna session every single day. So you're going to a place to intentionally sweat out and everything. And then along with oftentimes a hard workout outdoors, following that a few hours later, I didn't have a routine that was conducive for the lack of showering. It was the most amount of sweat I could perspirate in a week, it felt.
Yep.
And that along with like a barefoot walk and a few things around the neighborhood, I was dirty.
Yeah.
Or at least in my head, I felt much dirtier than I actually may have been. And it was just so uncomfortable. I can think about it now, just kind of like the shivers down your spine a little bit, which is so odd to think about because I'm a grown man. Like, not showering shouldn't be that big of a deal. Like, people go camping, people go hunting, people do all these things all the time and they're in the military and it's just not in a conducive place to take a shower and they're completely fine. Like, why is this something that's really bothering me? And so it's kind of this mind game of this isn't really that big of a deal, but I'm gonna do this my entire life and never looked at it. And it actually feels difficult to not shower. So it was rough, not gonna lie to you. The first 12 hours is how long I took for it to feel it. But then I'd say probably about 2 days total. It was tough.
Yeah. So that night one, I remember we had a conversation and this was what was really interesting. Out of kind of nowhere, when he's like uncomfortable, touching the lava of the bed sheets and like, ew, like this is so gross. I remember I was like, do you want me to put your lotion on your feet? And he was like, ew, no, like my feet are dirty. Like, why would you do that? So there were so many deep programs I was working with here. And as I'm just like kneeling on the floor next to him, I think I was stroking his arm because I could tell he was very uncomfortable. He just blurts out something that was completely unexpected. Do you remember what you said? You blurted out and you were like, I remember when I was maybe 4 or 5, I would like throw these tantrums where I would basically threaten my parents I was going to pee on the door. And then I would like scream and then run into my room and be like, I'm going to pee on the door. And then I never did it. And then one day I did it. Do you remember you just randomly said that to me?
Yeah.
And so what are the odds that not showering would bring out this like very oddly specific memory from when he was 4 years old?
Yeah.
So I just remember in that moment you told me that, I was like, oh, we're getting somewhere.
I was 14 years old. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was 12.
That was actually last year. Yeah. But
14 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for clarifying.
No, I think I was probably around that time 4.
But do you remember recalling these memories to me in your agitated state on night 1?
Not really. I mean, I'm just so present. I don't really remember anything nowadays. I don't know what's going on. But you, thankfully, are the historian, so you remember these very well. So I'm excited for you to tell me what I told you.
So when he said this to me, I remember just sitting with him, listening to him describe it. He had never told me that before. We talk about everything. So the fact that this it seemed very emotionally charged. I don't know if you remember this, but you were on the verge of tears telling me that. It seemed to really move something in you to remember this very deep memory. I mean, if you were 4 years old, that's a very deep memory. And I was like, oh, well, this is very interesting. I think I asked you, why do you think that this is coming up now? And I think what you said to me is, I needed to control my environment somehow. I needed to almost have one thing that I could do to mess up the environment. I had to know that I could have agency in the environment. And I think even when I was young, that was my weird way of rebelling against the structure. Even though the structure helped me, it was coming from love. It was like, I could pee on the door. I'm not going to, but I could pee on the door. And that almost kept you like, oh yeah, like I'm just doing this, but I could be a menace.
Mm-hmm.
I could be dirty. So reflecting on this now live, where do you feel that memory was coming from on the end of day one?
I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what you're saying.
I was just wondering if you felt into, do you think that was one of the roots of this, like...
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
The control.
I'm just drawing a blank right now. I don't know.
That's all right, baby. Are you feeling it at all?
No, like... I just don't remember. Like I'm trying to go there, but just like there's nothing.
That's all right, baby. What are you feeling in this moment?
I'm trying to dig through a library that doesn't exist.
Do you remember that memory happening?
Not really.
Wow. Do you think that maybe because you were in this heightened agitated state, you were able to recall a time where you felt that way, even though you were so young? Because how could you have said that to me if it's not the heightened emotional state bringing that to you?
Possibly.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, think about this. You're in the bed and you're like writhing with discomfort. And then as I'm just sitting there stroking your arm, you come out almost like it erupted from you.
Yeah.
This memory. I mean, it shocked me because how could you remember something from when you were 4?
It was almost as if like the heightened emotions was the gateway for me remembering. Exactly. But like right now in the present moment and like very calm and at peace, I'm trying to go back and it won't let me.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like this kind of block around remembering that.
Wow. That's probably a good thing.
I guess, yeah.
It probably shows you conquered it.
I think most definitely the present moment kind of limits your access to the past. But I've been feeling this actually a lot recently, the past handful of months. But especially the past handful of days, it's just like, if I try to think too far in the future or think too far in the past, it's as if like this white space appears.
Wow.
So
sounds nice.
Yeah. Kind of just have to be here now, no matter what.
Sounds peaceful.
But I'd love to continue this conversation.
Of course. Okay, so what I was trying to ask and to see if this is where you felt it was coming from was I think that very, very old memory erupted from Cam in that moment of heightened agitation because when your body recognizes an emotion, you don't let it feel very much. So Cam does not let himself get dirty, right? Quote unquote dirty very much. But because he was in the state of being dirty and being agitated, there was a memory that his body felt into as I've been here before. When have I been here before? And then a memory like that, a very old memory in the bank, comes forward and just erupts from him very randomly. So I knew we were getting somewhere when that happened. Because that's exactly what I would have expected to happen from this, is for him to be put into a state that he doesn't allow himself to be in very much due to the control, right? The control of environment, control of his own body, control of his own cleanliness. And then all of these little, fragments, these fragment memories that he's been storing within his emotional code in his body will come to the surface. We can talk about it and we can just let them evaporate and let them go. So then on the morning of day 2, He wakes up, we do our gratitude call, we go to the sauna. And this is one of the most interesting days because I have very rarely seen Cam get angry. Like, I'm not talking just agitated, but angry. And we're in the sauna. We drove all the way to our yoga studio in complete silence. And I just could feel, when you're next to someone who's kind of boiling and you can feel the heaviness in their energy. I was just sitting there in my peaceful jacuzzi of good emotions, knowing exactly what's happening. He's so uncomfortable. He keeps itching everywhere in the car and angrily kind of like this kind of face and like all over his body. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's really feeling something now. We arrive at the sauna and of course the door slams harder than usual. And he's just a little bit agitated. He gets into the sauna and we're probably sitting there for about 15 minutes. And he goes, I'm really pissed off right now. And I'm like, good. Sink into it. And then he just goes, he takes his foot, he kicks the back of my calf and goes, meh. And I was like, what is this? I had never seen this version of Cam. It was like a little boy, right? It was like dealing with the younger version of Cam because he was in this heightened state of agitation that allowed this young child version of Cam to come on out and play with me. I was the lucky person who was on the receiving end of young Cam, and I love young Cam. He is such a sweetie. So we're sitting there. He kicks my calf. I think I laughed because I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen you like this before. And so he's there, monk mode, looking kind of like annoyed, kind of like, I think you got up and you were like, I want to punch the glass of this sauna. I just want to like completely shatter this glass. And I'm like, not the best idea. Can't say I support that. And he was like, I'm not going to do it, but like, I just want to like kick something. Like I want to like beat somebody up or something. I want to break the glass. Do you remember the sauna and how you felt in there?
Barely.
Wow. That's amazing you don't remember it actually. Because like it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So he's mad. So then we go from the sauna to get me a Diet Coke, which we always do every day. We go into the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. And because we're such regulars and have this daily routine of getting a Diet Coke, they all know us. And we do this weird thing where we ask them all questions. This is a life hack, by the way. If you want to get free stuff regularly or just have a better time with your existence, ask drive-thru folks or service workers questions about their lives. Our favorite one right now is what sparks joy in you? But the question we started with was, what's your favorite animal? There are some people we've seen so many times, we probably asked them like 15 questions and they love us. Like every time we pull away, they're like, I love those people. They're my favorite. I'm telling you, it works. So we go around the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. This time, the girl at the counter asked us a question. She's like, what should I name my cat? I think she said she wanted to name it either Parker or Boots. And so we were weighing in on the cat's name. And as we're driving away, I'm like, wow, how cute is it that she asked us to help name her cat? Like, we're just two random people at the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. And he turns to me and goes, Chick-fil-A, when you're here, you're family. And I was like, that's the Olive Garden slogan. And then he goes, Olive Garden is the one place my mom and dad would not let me go. They just hated Olive Garden. Olive Garden was the worst. And so then we turned to each other like a record scratch. Beep! We're going to Olive Garden. So we decide, and this is, again, after the sauna. So Cam is full swamp ass supreme. He is sweaty. He is unshowered. This is day 2. So we drive back home. He doesn't change at all. Now, this is big because you're walking into a restaurant and inflicting your quote unquote smell, your stank, to everyone around you. So there's a part of shame that's being able to be released with you being dirty in public, being witnessed. So we go into the Olive Garden parking lot. And something interesting starts to happen. So if you've tuned into prior episodes, you know that Cam has quite a few allergies. He had a very restrictive diet growing up, so he only really ate rice, chicken, and broccoli. So he has allergies to just about every kind of food, especially the food you would eat at an Olive Garden, okay? So all the cheese and the bread and pretty much all of it. So as we're sitting in the Olive Garden parking lot, Cam starts to have a quasi-allergic reaction before we're even in the restaurant. We're not eating any food. We don't even see any food. It's also 11 a.m. No one's in this parking lot. And he starts to have his cheeks get a little red, starts to feel itchy. What other symptoms did you feel? Do you remember?
I'd always feel growing up with dairy, a lot of sinus issues. So sneezing, coughing sometimes. My eczema would flare up quite a bit. It'd be itching everywhere. So yeah.
And that's what you felt in the car.
Yeah.
So in this moment, he notices that he's having an allergic reaction before we even eat the food, before we even enter the restaurant. And we decide to take that moment to see if we could let go of these allergies and just notice that maybe some of these allergies are actually in the mind. Because how could he be having an allergic reaction? How could his throat be tickling and sneezing and coughing and itching when there's no food in front of us? So do you remember what you did at that point, baby?
No.
Baby said, my memory has left the building.
I don't know
on
if
this
it's just like pure presence or brain damage, but I'm not really recalling like any of this.
Thank God for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, dang, I'm the real MVP of the shower experience.
Or else we just sit here in silence and smile at each other.
So basically, he sets an intention, which we do often, to let go of these allergies. And so what we'll do when we set an intention is something like closing our eyes, putting our hands together, and usually we hold hands when we do this, and we say, thank you. And we'll usually say something like, thank you for this amazing opportunity to go into this beautiful restaurant and have a compassionate, intentional meal. Thank you to all of the plants, peoples, and animals who brought this food to our table today. Thank you for the opportunity for this food to digest slowly, to digest perfectly through my system and cause me no health issues. I am so grateful to never have a negative impact from this food. Allow it to nourish our body fully and completely, and allow me to let go of any sensitivities that may arise during this meal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. So we'll usually close our eyes and say something like that. And Cam said something to that effect before we entered the Olive Garden. And after he said that, he's like, I feel so much better just already in this moment. I'm like, that's fantastic. So maybe our intentions are working. We go into the Olive Garden. We open up the shop. So the only people around here are like boomers and people who are coming from the Chuck E. Cheese or something. So it's a motley crew. We get our own little table. The music is blaring, this beautiful Italian playlist. And Cam gets the tour of Italy. He gets the biggest plate with the most cheese, and it's got lasagna and chicken parm and all of the cheese. I think there's fettuccine alfredo. So this would be like Cam's nightmare meal growing up that would probably cause him to like have instant shits.
Yeah.
And an itchy throat and a messed up system for days. So here we are, me and Mr. Swampass sitting in the Olive Garden. He's eating the meal. We start with the breadsticks. Shout out. They're fantastic. And he's feeling nothing. Nothing's really impacting him. So he's like, well, this is interesting. Then the meal comes. He's eating the meal, feeling nothing. Usually Cam's cheeks will start to get a little red. Nothing. He's like, wow, this tastes so amazing. I'm really enjoying every bite. We're like kind of like swaying and dancing and just having such a good time in this Olive Garden meal. And what do you know? He does not feel any instant reaction. Now, I've experienced meals with Cam where he will eat, piece of cheese or one of these things, one of the lasagnas, chicken parms, and instantly have to run to the bathroom. And this time, I don't even think he went to the bathroom the whole time we were in the Olive Garden. So I'm immediately noticing a difference. I'm like, did we just cure your allergies by saying a prayer? Did we just cure your allergies in our mind? And I'm not saying we let go of Cam's allergies that day, but what I am saying is I've seen him react to many different meals. And in his final meal boss of allergies, he went through like a breeze and still to this day brings up that Olive Garden was really fantastic, I must say.
Yeah. And I think that goes into a more bird's eye approach, this whole topic as a whole.
Yeah.
To where we know that our mindset, whether we have a optimistic outlook or pessimistic outlook, has an effect on how we experience reality. That's pretty obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are acting as if that mindset can be taken to the extreme. As if we are an extreme optimist, we will have extremely positive experiences. And so we are in our minds almost as if we're declaring to the world how things are going to be. And they tend to happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did this for everything we create, whether it's Great Morning, whether it's podcasts, whether it's the walks and everything I've done. It's as if we don't allow the universe, reality, to be any other way except exactly how we want it to be. And then we follow with the action necessary that will give that likelihood of it being the way we want it to be the highest chance possible.
So true.
And so I think that goes for a lot of health. We talked about this in the past few podcasts about how many Diet Cokes you put down, right? It's actually a podcast I released today, the day we're filming this. And I really feel someone who looks at Diet Coke and enjoys every single sip and loves the crap out of it, it's going to have a different effect on the body than if they looked at the Diet Coke as if it was poison and they felt incredibly guilty while drinking it. And they're scrolling their phone, they're distracted, they're not present with that drink or that food while they're doing so. I think it does have a major effect on how it actually reacts in our body. And we're just taking that to the highest level we can, in which all of the limiting beliefs or the limiting food palette we believe that we're capable of eating may be changed, may be shifted if our mindset believes it can be. And so it was funny how, as we're practicing the shower thing, this limiting belief around me being dirty all the time, need to be clean, simultaneously we're given the opportunity to look down my allergies, look upon how it may not be serving us anymore, and it may have just been a story we've told ourselves our entire lives. If I tell myself I'm allergic to everything and I deeply believe it, it'll probably be as such.
Yeah.
But if I tell myself the opposite, it'll probably be as such. And so we had an incredible experience, which we got to see that my body performed near perfect, as opposed to me having an allergic reaction. Everything went perfectly. And so shifting that mindset around it, declaring to the world that this no longer serves me, this no longer applies to me, I think has a huge effect on our bodies for those that are ready to fully embrace it.
And I'd also say this can apply to absolutely anything. So I think one of the most dangerous sentences that I hear people say all the time is, "That's just the way I am." No, it's not. You can change the way you are at any moment. If you say, "Oh, that's just the way I am. I'm an introvert. I'm an extrovert. I'm awkward. I'm anxiously attached." If you give yourself all these labels, guess what? You now have put a limiting factor on how you're going to act in every situation. Which, what if you were to flip it? And instead of saying, "I'm an introvert and I'm socially awkward," you say, "I'm an extrovert. I'm fully comfortable in every room. I'm fully confident everywhere I go. I know I belong in every room I walk into. In every room I walk into, I connect with people effortlessly." You feel a difference? But if I were walking around, which I used to, by the way, I used to tell myself these stories and used to say, "I'm introverted. I can't do small talk. Oh, I short circuit around people because I don't understand what to say next. No one's like me. I can't find my people." And guess what? All of that came true. So our words are incredibly powerful, including the identities we allow ourselves to have and we give to ourselves. And we have the ability at any moment to change the labels that we put on ourselves. So for Cam, it was something as serious as, these are the things I'm allergic to. And I have a lot of allergies and I have negative reactions to food. And for him to sit here and say, which is pretty marvelous, honestly, and remarkable, that you would say, "I'm just going to let go of these allergies. I don't want to be someone with allergies anymore." And you believe that in your body, then went to the Olive Garden and we had a fantastic time. It's pretty incredible how powerful the mind is when you give it positive direction of the person you want to be or aspire to be, rather than the person that you are today that's holding yourself back.
If you believe in something 100%, it's destined to take place. If you believe in something 80%, it'll work to the 80% degree. And so this whole allergy thing, I think I'm probably 90 to 95% soul, that the mind truly dictates how my body reacts and what is allergic to or lack thereof. And therefore, 90 to 95% of my allergies have gone away. I think of it this other way. I was putting out this tweet the other day. It was like, people functioning at a very high vibration or awareness, enlightened beings, aren't subject to the same things that the average human is. I've never seen a monk leave a monastery to go to the local CVS pharmacy to grab a prescription for his cold or something like that. That just doesn't happen. It's as if they don't get sick the same way the average person does. And so as we evolve as humans, as we raise our vibration, it would make sense that the rules we've been taught, the programs, the conditioning about how things are, about our own minds and bodies, may not apply to us at that higher state. And we're thankfully just experimenting with that to the extreme right now. Like in a normal life, not going to a monastery, not meditating on a mountain, whatever it is.
We're not monks yet.
we go upon life in a very normal way, but we refuse to believe in anything that doesn't serve us. And when you only believe in things that serve you, you tend to create a pretty fantastic life for yourself. And that's incredibly hard to do when we have literally decades of programs and conditioning running through our minds at all given times, telling us how we need to live. But you and I are reaching a point where we want to be free, truly, truly free in all aspects, not just financially free, but mentally and emotionally free, to have no limitations, so that we can enjoy this human experience to its fullest extent. And somehow, some way, a big domino to fall in my journey to feel that way came from me having swamp ass.
You swamp assed your way to enlightenment, baby.
That is crazy.
What a sentence.
That is wild.
Taking no shower for 5 days.
Shower, Olive Garden.
It lets you let go.
Swamp ass. I'd love for us to put a cherry on top of the story. So
absolutely. So let's revisit the story. You know us, we love our tangents and we love to go the scenic route, if you will.
Especially the Enlightenment topic.
Yeah, exactly.
We just go in.
Exactly. Cam just goes, enlightenment, it's time to awaken. And, he just goes on it. And it's fantastic every time, baby. We love you. So, anyhoozle, we go into the Olive Garden. This whole thing happens. We let go of Cam's allergies. These are all wild sentences that I'm saying all at the same time. And then, this is still day 2 of the shower experiment, right? So then we go back home. And as we're driving home, this man is living. This man is literally turned to me, smiling from ear to ear, bringing a tear to my eye. And it's just like, I feel so amazing right now. I feel so free. And like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I feel so good. And he's literally, it just makes me emotional because it was like, I could feel your joy. Oh my gosh, I didn't expect to get emotional after that. But to see that you struggled so much with your allergies and with this feeling that you were dirty, and then literally not taking a shower for 2 days and going to Olive Garden, and we're just driving back home in your truck and you're like so happy and the windows are down, and he just truly felt like a different person. He felt so, it's just alive. And it was beautiful to witness. I was so happy, and this is hours after Cam kicking my shin out of anger in the sauna. It was just beautiful. It felt like it was such a big domino that fell. And I was just so proud of him for like embracing this and going there, because we know there are people out there who will go their entire lives never looking at this stuff. And you always look at it and you always go there and you always experiment and try. And I just think that's the most beautiful thing you can do. Like, that is the human condition at its best. Is somebody who will say, oh, you notice this thing about me? Let me look at that. Let me not run away from it, but let me actually run towards it. See where it's coming from, which can be incredibly painful. And it's so painful, or, was at the time. Maybe he's let it go so much, his memory is like, oh, that's out of there now. It literally dissipated from his memory, which is so powerful. But this was so heavy and alive for him. And then to see him in the car, just like living his best life, literally smiling at nothing, was so beautiful. So then we go back home and he was just so productive. I remember you got so much done that day. You were feeling so good about yourself. And you would come up to me randomly and just be like, baby, I'm feeling better about the swamp pass. Like, I'm feeling good about it. I'm actually like, I don't notice as much anymore. And like, I think I can really do it. I can make it to day 5. And this is a change in your energy after the Olive Garden experience, which is a funny sentence, was really beautiful. So then day 3, day 4, day 5, we keep having this like up and up and up experience where I'm noticing that you're just like so much more relaxed. And it was so beautiful to watch you go through this like shedding of these limiting beliefs. On day 3, which I found very interesting, one thing that I noticed, this is like maybe the last slip of freedom that was letting go, is that Cam turns to me and he goes, I think I'm trying to control my external environment because I feel internally uncomfortable. What this looked like is we just moved into a new house and I have some boxes left over from my apartment. Some of the boxes were in our bathroom waiting to be put away because we had people deliver our Costco bed. And all of a sudden, he hasn't said one word about these boxes. And he's like, can we put away these boxes? And then be like, can you put away the boxes in this room too? And like, what's up with these boxes? It was almost like an obsessive need to control the environment because he couldn't control his own cleanliness in his body, that it almost projected outward. That happened on day 3, which it felt related to me, but he actually caught it. He caught that after not mentioning these boxes for like weeks, all of a sudden the boxes gotta go. So do you remember that, baby?
Yeah, I truly believe that all imbalance or all obsession is coming from a place of fear. Is coming from a place of, I need to control everything and everyone around me. This needs to be perfect. Therefore, I can be safe. I can be enough. And we see obsession when it comes to business success, when it comes to health, when it comes to just every metric of life. People try so hard to control every single aspect, every single piece of the puzzle so that everything goes perfect. That's what they're obsessed about because they believe if it's not perfect, they will not be safe, or they will not be approved of, they will not be loved. And so that has been such a huge realization for us to come to the past handful of months that has led to so much more happiness, bliss, peace, just being on the other side of that. But for you to be able to realize there was something that I was still holding on to, I wouldn't call it obsessed with showering, but like, maybe.
Obsessed with being clean.
Obsessed with being clean.
More importantly, obsessed with not being dirty. I think that's more what it was, because there was a level of shame that you felt about being dirty that you couldn't handle. Like if you were dirty, you didn't want to be touched, which I noticed in you. And of course, I was all over him because I didn't want him. I wanted to break this. I did not want to create this weird reality in his head where if I'm dirty, I don't want anyone near me. I don't want to be touched or anything. Because at first, he'd kind of like freak out if I'd get too close to him, or he'd just be like, oh, I really smell. I could feel almost like a slight like wince, a slight like I'm going to move my body a little away. And I was like, oh, no, we're not having this. So I was all up in there. Yeah. I was all up in that grill for 5 days.
Shove your nose into my armpit at any moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so unique to realize that, because we've noticed it in other aspects of life, but something so rudimentary as this, of just like kind of daily routine of showering and cleaning your room, you never would think about it. But this really just makes so much sense when you look in every aspect of life. Like me wanting to shower so much because I was afraid of being dirty, and being dirty meant I was less likely to be approved of by people I want approval for. Less worthy, less love, less safety when that's the case. And that same behavior looks different for everyone, but it feels as if the farm dirty people have some type of mixture or some type of flavor of this, right? And so if you have someone in your life that is almost obsessive, let's call it imbalance when it comes to reaching out to you, whether it's like an overbearing mother or friend, someone who just won't let you go that way, or boss, or whatever it may be, our human interactions, or self-to-self interactions, or just how we navigate life. If it's coming from an imbalanced way, it probably is coming from fear. Yeah. Because the more love I have for myself, the more reasonable I become, and the more balance I have for everything in life. The work-life balance, I can be clean, but not, feel some type of way if there's a dirty sock on the ground, or all these different things. The more love I have for myself, the less things need to be this certain way. Behavior takes place. And that really feels like true freedom. I feel like nothing owns you anymore. There's no way you have to live. So you just get to live however feels right to you in any moment. So the shower experiment was pretty awesome.
It was awesome.
Kind of sucked the first 48 hours for me, but then after that, I felt this new level of presence. And I've noticed that we all have seasons, whether it's a handful of minutes, days, months, years, where we feel angry, irritated, on edge a little bit. When we feel that way, that is a sign to look at something we've been avoiding. When we feel that way, that is literally the red flag being shown, like, hey, look over here. There's something to learn here. And oftentimes it takes letting go of something you've held on to from a place of fear and force, and finally let go of it so that it serves us in a way that leads us to have more love into our life. And so when we're angry, when we're irritated, that's happening for a reason.
Yeah. I think one way I've been seeing my own emotional journey lately is that instead of trying to fight the emotion or be like, oh, this is inconvenient, or I don't want to feel this right now, and then you almost cut it with something. So you cut your attention with I'm going to pick up TikTok and watch this, or I'm going to call a friend, or instead of cutting the emotion, rest into it. If you can literally visualize yourself sinking into some of these emotions, whether it's anger, grief, shame, that will allow it to dissolve. If you do not sink into the emotion, it stays within you, and then it'll bottle up and up and up and explode later. That's why people have anger issues. That's why people have explosive relationships in their lives. So for anyone listening to this who can resonate with what Cam said about these moments where he was feeling agitated and angry, and through the shower experiment, when those moments happened, I, as his partner, did not try to fix it. I didn't intervene in any way. The only thing that I would do was let him know that he was loved, have no judgment towards him, not say anything at all about how he was acting, and just make him feel completely safe to express in those moments. Because I knew I wasn't dealing with Cam. I was dealing with an altered state of Cam that was wrestling with all of these really old emotions, some of which from when he was 4 years old, all coming up that had been buried so far down there. And I don't want to, push those down there more. I want to actually bring them to the light and help him dissolve them, release them, and let them go. So if you feel inspired by the no shower experiment, I would say there are so many ways that this can be expressed. These irrational habits or fears that we have. I'll give a couple of other examples so that maybe you'll see yourself in one of these. As a woman, one of the things that I do every time I know I'm going to see people is put makeup on. This is something that I do every time we record this podcast, every time we do our great morning calls. I don't feel as beautiful and as safe being seen without my face on. I use that language because you guessed it, that's the language my mom used when I was growing up is, oh, let me put my face on before we go to the Walmart, right? So I learned that when I had my makeup on, I was beautiful. And when I did not have my makeup on, I was not beautiful. And so that is a pattern that's very deeply entrenched to me to this day. So these things can look like anything. It can be like someone taking a bunch of showers. It could be like someone excessively cleaning their environment. So for example, if you have someone in your life who cannot stand even a speck of dirt, or the opposite, someone who's really, really dirty, but really dirty, or like a hoarder, right? Or can't seem to throw things away they have an emotional attachment to, or they make up excuses for oh, why do you have all this junk in your house? And it's well, this person gave me this in 2008. And it's they have all these stories. It's there's definitely something underneath this behavior. This could look like so many different avenues, makeup, hoarding. This person does this thing every single day, obsession with health and running or exercising in a very specific regimented way every single day. And if they don't do it, they're going to fall apart. This can look so different for people. But what I would invite you to notice in both yourself and your partner, if you're willing to have this conversation, is what comes up for you when you hear this conversation? What is your 4 showers a day? And if you take that moment to reflect and say, wow, there is something that I've done since I was young that I don't even quite understand why I do it. And I would be nice to at least try to let it go. It would be nice to step into another reality where I don't have to do this thing as many times as I do it. If what I am saying right now is calling something specific to mind for you, use your partner or a close family friend or your mom or anyone in your life who makes you feel safe as your accountability buddy to breaking this long-standing pattern, to reprogramming the subconscious pattern that's been with you forever. That doesn't mean you don't ever have to do it again. Cam has showered many times since the no shower experiment, right? And I love that he showers, he's
in a balanced way.
In a balanced way.
Yeah.
And so I just invite anyone listening to this to really take this story as an excuse to see your own self. What is your shower in this situation? Replace shower with whatever that your word is. And if you take this as an opportunity to grow, to shed, to let go, you will feel so much better. You will feel that moment of freedom that made me emotional when I was talking about Cam driving home in the car with the windows down and just loving life because he did take a shower for a couple of days. I hope that you guys get to experience that, or that you have noticed something within yourself as we're speaking. And if you did figure out something about yourself, a subconscious program, something deep down there that you want to try to work on, let us know. We would love to know what your fill in the blank shower is in this situation. But thank you so much for being here, y'all. We love you so, so much. We're so excited to bring you into this wacky experiment that we ran together. And we hope that you love the story and very well, at least can see yourself in it. So thank you, y'all. We love you so much. And we will see you next week.
Love y'all. See you next week.
Love y'all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Let's go get some Olive Garden.
Let's go get some Olive Garden. You're invited. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Thank you for listening to this episode of Listen Before Love. If you're interested in looking at other episodes, the clips, or subscribing, you can click here, somewhere over here. Thank you so much. We love you.
We love you. Bye-bye.